Yeah, if I cut off that little guard right there, maybe remove this entire bottom barrel and kind of just reinforce that mechanism a little bit, maybe with some washers and a screw or something. The old gun blade there will actually be somewhat complete. Huh. Well, gonna need time to work on that. Let's talk about secondaries, because I kind of posed the question to the Nerf subreddit a little over a month ago, maybe 2, I don't remember. But I posed the question why everybody flippin' loves the Hammershot. And I mean, it's not like I can't see the appeal, especially from coming the background that I absolutely love, like, cowboy stuff. I'm a big fan of lever actions, and I'm a big fan of the single action as well. But as I've stated before, I don't really like this blaster. And to a lot of people that may confuse you. But what confuses me more is when I see people pretty much just saying anytime they need any kind of pistol, Nerf blaster, anything, to buy a Hammershot. Well, I think that's a little misleading. Is their Hammershot fun? Undoubtedly. It is a very, very fun blaster to use. However, from my experience in warring, and keep in mind, I have a lot of warring experience, or at least Dart Zone experience, or Dart Wars as it's called now, under my belt, it hasn't been anything close to the best secondary. Like, not even remotely close. I have pulled this blaster out of my holster so many times and had darts missing because they just fell out. And I've also had a lot of times where I've been priming it, and to have it, because this trigger is really sensitive, have it just immediately spring up and completely screw me. And it's not a very good secondary when I have to watch how I'm pulling it back and then fire it and then watch again. Yeah, you can get pretty good at that, but when you're in the middle of running and shooting at people, this just doesn't work that well. Which got kind of the question forming, what is a secondary? We kind of have to define this before we continue forward with this video. And a secondary, in my opinion, can be used in 2 different ways. You have a last-ditch blaster, specifically used for when your primary is either out of ammo or jammed, and you also have a blaster that's supposed to fill a specific weakness that you have. Most of you won't even know anything about having a weakness with your primary, because most of you are the type of people who go on online games and pick assault rifles and can literally just dominate anybody at any range no matter what you're doing, because you don't have to worry about things like recoil or engagement range, because you have the all-around thing. And that kind of applies to Nerf as well. A lot of people just seem to use the best stuff. You get the question constantly, what is the best Nerf blaster? And this upsets me greatly because I come from the school of thought that nothing should ever be the best. Ever. You can have a jack of all trades, master of none, but if you're playing like an open field and the only thing capable of hitting anybody is range, there's no such thing as, well, firing speed does kind of matter at that point as well, but there's nothing like close range engagements or anything like that. Basically what I'm trying to say is, if I can't use a Maverick and still have a chance at winning in a Nerf fight, something's wrong. I should obviously have a chance. I should be able to use that to camp a corner or something like that, or come up behind people. I should have at least a chance, and that's not happening pretty much anywhere in the Nerf spectrum. Even Dart Wars has a huge problem with blowgunners that I've complained about for hours on end. But that's kind of the 2 ways that you can use a secondary. That is the point of a secondary, in my opinion. So, this video is pretty much, I know we're 4 minutes in now, and this video is pretty much going to be, I'm going to go over a bunch of blasters, and I'm going to explain what I think is a good secondary and what I think isn't. And we'll start off with the first factor. The first thing you have to think about when you're picking your secondary. What are you picking a secondary for? Are you picking it to use it at something to cover a weakness your main blaster may have, or are you using it as a last-ditch effort? And the next question is, are you going to use something that matches your primary's ammo type? As in, am I going to use this with a rapid strike because they both use elite darts? Or am I going to use maybe a strife with a rapid strike because they both use magazines? That's something you have to think about. And there is a double-edged sword to that kind of thinking. Yes, cowboys used to like to take their .357 lever actions with their .357 revolvers, or You know, I don't even know if that caliber was 45, 44, 45 Colt, whatever. You get it. That kind of thinking can get you screwed, because we're in this stratosphere now that there are Boomco darts, there are Vortex discs, there are Buzzbee stickies. There's a lot of different type of ammos out there, and well, if you're only using one type, yeah, it can screw you pretty easily. In fact, it screws you constantly if you go to Dart Wars. So keep that in mind when you're picking a secondary. It can work, again, two different ways. You can use something that pairs ammo with your primary, or you can use something that uses a different type of ammo so you have a more variety that you can pick up off the ground if you choose to do so. But we'll start with the Hammershot. Yeah, I think it's a pretty nice blaster, but in all practicality, if you're using this in a war, what's the point of having one-handed blasting? Unless your primary does not have a sling, I do not see a point to one-handed blasting. That right there is not a reason to use the Hammershot. A reason to use the Hammershot is it's not very picky with your dart quality. You can put in a pre-bat elite dart in there, and as long as you're not running around with it constantly, you know, on your hip, you're not going to lose any darts out of it, and it will fire all of those pretty well. It's not going to fire them amazingly well, it's going to fire them pretty well. And we'll just kind of go down the spectrum here. Next up is, we've got the Vigilon. Now, this is a disc blaster, but it's got an internal magazine. Hey, this is one I picked up at a thrift store that had stuff in there. It's kind of cool. Didn't know about that. But yeah, this is a bulky sidearm. It is huge, but it's got an internal magazine of 5 discs. It's pretty easy to fire. It does require both hands, but again, that shouldn't really matter. And, well, it's a disc blaster. If you need to use discs, this is a good one. And, to be honest, discs are pretty good close range because they're really hard to dodge. Or, I guess I should say mid-range. They're good close to mid-range. Long range, they can be easily dodged if somebody is paying attention, but their unpredictability makes them really good as well. Discs are kind of falling out of favor here because nobody ever really uses them, but hey, Vigilon is a good choice. You are going to need to make some kind of holster for it. But again, a good choice. Next up, we'll go with a simple one. The Triad. One of the better secondaries, however, a 3-dart ammo capacity with a prime and shoot. It's not terrible by any means, but I wouldn't really consider this a secondary. In fact, I would consider this what's called a third weapon. I can't say that word right now to save my life. A third blaster in this case. It's like your last ditch effort. Not a bad choice, but there's so many other things you would rather use. And let's face it, this is not a very, you know, you're not going to get long range with this, and you're really just going to be using it close range to hit a couple of people. And there's better stuff you could use. Let's try something a little bit bigger. Yeah, this is one of the first blasters I ever painted, by the way. This is a Rough'em-a-Cut. A Rough'em-a-Cut is a good secondary, but it has its downfalls. What makes this a good secondary, in my opinion? Because this is something you could whip out and effortlessly just fling darts out. Just not even try. Just fling darts out and hit your target and go back to what you were doing. Fix your primary, whatever. If you're using something like a air blaster that has ridiculous range but not very good firing speed, this is good to have up close. And it's not terribly big. You're going to need a leg holster for it, but it works pretty well. Where does this thing fall flat on its face? The darts will fall out. You need to put brass in there and you need to use good darts. But again, this is, my opinion, a good secondary. Not a very good primary, although it could be used as that, but it's a very good secondary because it fills a niche. And that's kind of a hard niche to fill. Yeah, you could use a Strife. A lot of people really like the Strife. In all honesty, you can get, you know, 130 FPS out of this thing, and it can sound like a lawnmower, and it also uses magazines, but here's the issue. Magazines are huge, they stick out quite far, and you're really just choo, and you're done. And if your main blaster's already doing that, I don't see a point to using this. I guess stacking something that's good with something that's really, really good, go for it. But in my terms, it doesn't really make it a secondary. Again, I'm talking out my ass right now, because if you were rocking a modded Strife, you would absolutely dominate people if you could. But, wow. I don't really consider this a secondary, and it requires a leg holster. It is pretty big. It's about the same size as the Rough'em-a-Cut. That's, again, my opinion. I'm just kind of blitzing through these. Let's talk about another really good secondary, in my opinion. as I knock over a thing of tape. The flippin' Sludge Fire. Now, a lot of you are immediately gasping. This is a terrible blaster. It doesn't get very good range. It uses those dumb shells and so forth. What makes this a really good secondary, in my opinion? You can holster it. It's not terribly big. And when you pull it out and you fire, you are firing 3 darts that is going to be pretty much impossible to dodge. You are going to hit your target. It is going to happen. Now, you have a long reload, but that's why it's a secondary. It's not meant to be really used as a primary. It's meant to be like a last-ditch effort or something else you can use. And that makes the Sludge Fire ridiculously good. I have gotten so many tags with this at Dart Wars. It's incredible. You can camp with it, pop over a box, and hit anything in front of you within 40 feet. No problem whatsoever. A great secondary. Again, it fills a niche, but it's a very good one. Let's go through something else I really enjoy. The Strong Arm. Why do I think this is a good blaster? Because not only do you have this single shot, I can hit you at a pretty good range, but you also have the flip out and just rain darts on your opponent. It doesn't matter if darts are pretty much not coming out or a dart fell out. It doesn't matter. I just fired 6 darts and it doesn't matter at all. You are gone, basically. And this thing can hit 100 feet. Like, with an Orange Model Works kit, you're going to get ridiculous ranges and FPS out of this. A very good blaster, and of course, mine is modded to use drop mags, which make it really easy to reload, reholster, and get back into the action. A good blaster. Again, this is why I like the Strong Arm over something like the Hammershot. The Hammershot's claim to fame is you can use it one-handed, but that doesn't seem very useful to me whatsoever. Again, if you have to use one hand, well, maybe you should rethink how you're using your main primary. Is it fun to use dual wield? Yes. Can you be effective dual wield? Yes. But as a secondary, I don't think this is a good blaster. But we're not done there. Let's talk about something else, something we haven't seen yet, and that is the good old Mega Cyclone Shock. Not a bad blaster to use as a secondary. What would you use this as a secondary for? Well, you've got insane range, you have a different ammo type, and you've got a large capacity. That's pretty much all you need for a secondary. If you can, use Mega Darts and pick up Mega Darts, and on top of all of that, it's got really good range and really decent accuracy for, well, I mean, at longer ranges, the darts are going to kind of float off, but still, it's not bad. And again, that's kind of what, if this fits, like, I need a decent 70 to 80 foot blaster. This is it right here. And covering the spectrum of the maybes I can see a use for, I've used it as I used it as a secondary when I didn't have range, is the good old, well, we're going to use the Far Shot for this, but it also applies to the Fire Strike. Both are really good. Wow, usually you can't do that. Both are really good secondaries if you don't have range. These are really good for picking people off with, and they're very good for kind of just harassing people at long range with accurate, well-placed shots. Both are very good blasters for that. Is it the best secondary in the world? Would I use this as a secondary to a Rapid Strike or something? Not really. But if you're using something like a Rapid Madness and you need range, here you go. Something right here is fast, accurate, and deadly. I've gotten a lot of tags with this. In fact, I've probably gotten more tags with this thing than I've gotten tags with my Rapid Strike. Or my Rapid Madness, either or. I've used both before. And let's go into the realm of crazy. Again, why did I say this was actually a good secondary blaster? Because if you were using this as a secondary, is it what a secondary is supposed to be used for? Well, you can just whip it out. It's got a clip right there, a clip right here, don't flip and matter, and just hose somebody with darts. And you're going to get great ranges, and you're going to get decent groupings as well. Anything within 40, 50 feet of this thing is getting tagged. That's just what's going to happen. A very good secondary. An amazingly good secondary. You've got 8 shots, you've got range. What you lack is accuracy, but it makes up with that with firing rate, so who cares? And to kind of toot my own horn, let's talk about the last one, which is the good old Whip Messenger. Now, why is the Whip Messenger, in my opinion, a good secondary? Besides the fact that I built one, so I'm completely biased on that. Well, you get 3 shots with it, you get your one-handed prime, and you get decent range out of it. It's also got a pretty small profile compared to other blasters. The Messenger in itself is a good secondary. It's basically just a triad, but this is a one-handed one that I get excellent range with, It's not very big. I mean, yeah, this part is big, but this part right here is really slim, and you could use that in a holster. It's a very, very good blaster. I like it, and I think if you could make one, you should. In fact, I'm making 3 right now, but, well, God, I hate the paint job I did on this. But yeah, if you can, you should really consider what you're using for a secondary, and don't just listen to the people who say, buy a Hammershot. Is it a fun blaster? You bet your ass. Is it a fun blaster to use as a primary, or maybe even a secondary if you're going for something to offhand with your sling fire? Definitely. Is it the go-to secondary? No, it is not really a good secondary. It's a functional secondary, but it is not a very good one. So please, stop just saying, buy a Hammershot. In before buy a Hammershot.